everybody, it's Dana, and welcome back to the holiday card series for 2019. I'm so excited to be joining you guys on my first video tutorial. So let's go ahead and get started. Today I'm using Concord 9th stocking stuffers stamp set. I want to thank Concord 9th for constantly supporting me in my card series. I really appreciate their dedication and for always having some great stamp sets to use during my series. I went ahead and I stamped this out on Copic expressive paper because I wanted to do some Copic coloring today. I have a few colorful little Copic markers here, and I'll be sure to list them as I color. Now, I don't do a lot of coloring on YouTube. I kind of just find that I get into a zone when I'm coloring at home, so I don't do it a lot, but I figured, you know what, we're going to go ahead and do it for the card series. So I'm starting out with my R24 Copic marker. Now, this stocking is going to be in my favorite color combination, which happens to be teals and reds. And I know that's not a typical color combination for a holiday stocking, but remember, you can make your holiday stocking any color you choose because you can, and it's Copics, and you can do whatever you want. So I always start off by laying down one clean sweep of color, usually my lightest color, and then I come in and I start putting in my shadows. This marker here is R29, and I'm just bringing in some of that shading around the sides of the stocking. I'm going to keep my highlight to my stocking, to my coloring, right down the middle of this stocking. So I'm just adding some of that color, and I like to kind of work in sections when I work with my Copic markers. Next, I'm going to come in with R46 and just deepen up some of that coloring off to the sides. So remember, anytime you're using Copic markers, just make sure that you pick colors that blend nicely together, and just make sure to really saturate your paper. To me, once I saturate my paper, I get a better color variance when I'm doing it. So I'll sweep in that color, and I'm not coming all the way back into the color, just kind of adding it in. I wanted to zoom in so you guys can see this a little bit better. And I also put down a pad, a clipboard that has a couple papers underneath it to kind of keep my paper with the saturation of the ink from getting on my desktop. Now I went ahead and I sped this up because it's the same exact coloring that I did on the first two lines of my stocking. So while I'm coloring, I wanted to get into the holiday card series. I'm so forever grateful that I have some wonderful ladies joining me this year. And the reason I chose to do it this way is because these ladies have really meant a lot to me this year. I know some of these ladies don't even realize exactly what they mean to me, but this has been a very difficult year for me and my family, and just being able to chat with some of these women as well as just to be inspired by them is the reason I asked them to be on this series with me. And it also gives me a chance to show you guys some amazing talent in case you have never seen these young ladies before. And I call them all young ladies because I'm pretty sure I might be the oldest out of everyone. Just saying. So I just want to thank you guys. I have 20 incredible people with me, and I cannot thank them enough. You will see amazing projects by them. I get to do sneak peeks in advance, so I kind of get to see what's being done, and I'm gonna tell you, you're going to be floored by the inspiration. So thanks again, ladies. There's many other people I would have loved to have on this series with me, but if I invited all 50, I would have probably had to start this card series somewhere like in August. All right, so the colors I'm using are BG11, BG15, BG49. And then when I was coming back in with that BG11, my marker was kind of dry. So I went and grabbed my BG13, and I'm just going to do a tip to tip with this. I'm just grabbing some of that BG13 and pulling that color off with my BG11, and that's just going to help me blend. And remember, when you're doing any kind of coloring, if it's watercoloring, if it's Copic coloring, if it's color pencils, just enjoy the process. Don't try to be too particular and stress yourself out. Remember, when we're making holiday cards, we want it to be fun and relaxing. We don't want to be stressed out over every little detail. Next, I'm going to come in and do the candy canes. I'm using the same red color combinations, but I did leave out one. I'm not going to put in R29 because these are smaller images and I don't need to add so much to these smaller images as I did with the larger one. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually do all three colors if you wanted to, or if you wanted to darken up, make some shading, you can go ahead and use a color pencil for that. But I'm just going to come around and quickly go in with just these two colors, add a little bit of shading, and I'm going to just leave it like that. Next, I'm going to come in with a couple YG markers. I thought I would use YG 23, YG 17, and YG 45, but these little pieces here were a little bit too small, so I did not use the YG 17. Next, I'm going to come in with a nice brown shade. To me, I love to see the combination of a soft brown with teals and with reds. That's another one of my go-to combinations. I just love that color combination. And I'm using my E71, my E74, and my E79. Now, I did use 3 on that one just because I needed to add some depth right towards the bottom pieces of that the stems. And now for my little bubble parts, I'm just going to use BG11 and BG49. Now for the white, I didn't want to leave it stark white, so I'm using C00 and C01. And this is just going to add a tad bit of shading, not a lot, because I don't want to take away the white, but it's going to add just a nice little bit of shading around that white area, just so it doesn't look really, really stark. All right, now since I have all the coloring done and it looks amazing, I'm going to come in with the matching dies. Now these are coordinating dies that you can get for the stocking stuffers stamp set from Concord 9th, and I highly recommend getting the dies for this because obviously that little piece over there that has all the bubbles, that will be a lot of fussy cutting for me. So I'm glad I have the dies to go with this. I'm using my purple tape and I'm making sure not to put it over the parts that I colored because I don't want that to stick and have the chance of pulling up any of that Copic marker. I'll line up the next one and look how cute just those little candy canes look. I mean, that's just precious. I'll line that up and I'll also use a piece of purple tape and then a piece of washi tape. I have all these little scrap pieces um, attached to my or stuck on top of my Gemini Junior. So I just reach across and grab them and reuse them over and over again, especially that purple tape. All right, I'll run this through my die cut machine and now I have everything cut out. And I want this to look like it's attached. So I'm going to just take my scissors and trim off that top white part of that stocking. And I can't remember who I saw doing this on a video, but I was like, that is brilliant. I think it might have been Jen from Scrap Bina, I believe, or it might have been Courtney Krieber. Somebody did it and I thought it was brilliant. And I was like, yes, I'm going to be doing that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start with the background. I went ahead and grabbed out the snowflake die and I grabbed myself 2 coordinating colors that matched with my Copic colors. And I'm just going to quickly stamp off these little snowflakes in this gorgeous red and blue. And I'll make sure to list the colors below. And first I just want to stamp it off on a piece of scratch paper just to make sure that is the correct color that I want. And then I'll bring it over to my card panel. Now this paper is as well Copic Express paper because I just like the whites of my paper to match. So I'm going to use that. Now to put this down, I'm going to stamp just a few of the red ones first, just so I can kind of get a layout in my head of where I want my colors to go. I'm going to come in and clean off that stamp with my Ink on 3 Ink Off Cleaner. This is the best cleaner ever. I have bottles and bottles of this stuff. I'll clean that off and then I'll go into that pretty teal color. And the reason I want to clean in between is obviously I don't want to contaminate my ink pads. So I'll push down that blue color and again I'm going to bring in that scratch piece of paper, just test it out. Looks fabulous, and then I'm going to go ahead and start stamping that onto this. Now I'm going to kind of do a striped kind of design across the paper. So I kind of really just want things to line up. They don't have to be perfectly lined up, but I do just want to make sure that I get enough snowflakes of each color. So now since I have that kind of line, diagonal line going across, I can clean off my stamp again, and then I'll just repeat the process. I'm just going to line up that red and just keep going across the card. This way in my head, I felt like I wasn't going to mess this up by just trying to put like down the reds and then putting in the blues. If you just kind of take the time to kind of just do the colors offset from each other, to me, you have a tendency not to mess up your backgrounds. Sometimes I find that I put down too much of one color and then I don't leave enough space for the next color. So you see how that design goes really nice across that paper. I'm going to go fill in that top corner with a cute little red one, and then that design that way is fine. Now, since I have everything stamped out, I'm going to add one more blue to that corner because I want it to kind of look like it's going off the paper. So I'm going to add just a couple more reds to the side because you always want your design to look like it flowed off the paper. Now I have a piece of vellum. I love this design, but I need to tone it back a little bit. So I cut down a piece of vellum a little bit larger than my card panel itself. So I'm just kind of using my grid to help me line everything up. And then I'm going to lightly score this with a bone folder. Now you probably won't end up seeing the score lines, but I can kind of feel them when I go to flip the vellum over on the card. So I'm just lightly scoring, just running it through. I'm not trying to make like a crease in it. I just kind of want to make a light little line so I know where to fold everything over. Now you don't have to do this step if you cut your vellum a lot larger. But in this case, I did want to trim it down and not be wasteful when it comes to this vellum. So now I'm going to grab my ATG gun. And when I was putting down the tape from the ATG gun, I thought, I might want to use liquid adhesive. But I went ahead and did it anyway because I really just need to get one side of this vellum down and then I can work with the rest of it. So I'll just use some of that and I'm trying to get it close to the end so my vellum has something to hold on to. Next, I'll lay that right back down. And before I do anything, before I start folding this over, I am going to get my pair of little Tim Holtz scissors and just cut some snips in the corner. So when I go to fold this over, I don't have like a square piece. I have like pieces that I can fold back on each other. So I'm just going to very lightly just snip. I'm not snipping very far into the vellum, just enough that I'll have a piece that I can fold over. Almost like if you're doing a package and you don't want the square ends to be poking out, you usually trim down your corners. That's the same exact thing that I'm doing here in this vellum. And I do this when I wrap packages too because I just think it looks prettier. I'll just take this other side, kind of flip it around and just put a little cut there as well. All right, now we can go ahead and get busy with folding over the vellum. This is a great way to have a vellum on your card without having to use any type of glue on the front because, you know, with vellum, you'll end up seeing the marks from any kind of tape runner. So this is a great way if you just wrap your panel with your vellum, then you don't have to worry about that. You can also do this again if you make the piece a little bit larger. You can also do this with just regular packing tape. You can fold it over as if you're really wrapping a present and then just take the tape and run it down the back. No one's going to see the back of this anyway. So I'll lightly pull the vellum over just to get it on that one side. And then I can go ahead and start worrying about creasing up the other sides. It's super, super easy to do. Now, since I have all the corners folded in, I am going to grab myself some liquid glue. And I'm always using my Hero Arts because I love this glue. And I'm just going to place a line right underneath close to the edge of that vellum piece and just pull the vellum down. And then I can go ahead and go all the way around each side with that. Now, again, this is a perfect way if you have a background that might be a little bit too busy or too stark. If you're going to place something on top of it, this is a great way to kind of mute back that design just a tad bit. You don't necessarily get rid of the design, you're just muting it back a little bit. So just run my fingers right across the edge to make sure everything is adhering nicely. And then I can go ahead and grab my scissors and trim back off those little corner pieces I was talking about. So you see those little pieces there? When they're split in half like that, they're so much easier just to clip off. See how easy that was? And it just cleans up the back of your card. And what's so great is using these tiny little scissors, which I love. They sit in a bin now in a corner of my desk. I think they're just so cute to use. And then I can just clean up that edge. And voila. When I flip this over, you're going to see the design is still there. It's just muted back a little bit. Love it. Okay, so I want to mount this on a piece of red cardstock because I just want to pull in a little bit more of that red. And this is going to go in a white card base too, so I didn't want that white on white. I'll grab my ATG gun again. As you can tell, this is one of my favorite tools that always stays in my desk drawer. I love this gun. And I'll place that down onto this card panel. Now this is going to be a really simple card. I don't really want to add a lot of fuss to this card because I'm going to make a few of these, but I'm going to kind of keep them gender neutral. So I didn't want to add glitter and sequins and all that kind of stuff to this card. So I'll press that down and look how pretty that background looks. It looks absolutely gorgeous. But now I can come in with my cute little stocking. I'm going to grab that same glue and I'm just going to put a little bit right across the top, just a thin little line, and this is going to help me adhere that stocking stuffer piece. So you'll be able to see how it ends up to looking like just one piece was cut out instead of two pieces. So just carefully line that up, and with using the wet adhesive, it's so much easier than just trying to do this with like an ATG gun. So line that up and it looks like everything is actually tucked down in the stocking instead of having those two white pieces competing with each other. Super, super cute. Now I need to get a sentiment on that. So I'm going to grab my Misty and I'm also going to grab a piece of vellum and I'm going to stamp directly onto this vellum. I'll grab one of the sentiments out of that stocking stuffer stamp set, but I am going to slide down my little stocking just to make sure where I'm stamping is going to be towards the center of this. Now I am going to cut down the sides of that vinyl piece, so that's fine, but I just kind of wanted to eyeball it and get a good feel for where that sentiment was going to be. Okay, while I'm stamping this, I just want to remind everybody that the series runs from November 17th to December 14th. That's a full 28 days of creativity and inspiration for you guys. And also make sure to comment on the blog, gotjoycreations.com, and also here on my YouTube channel. The more you comment, the better your chances are winning. And there will also be extra projects that are going to be on the blog that you will not see here on YouTube. So just keep that in mind as well. All right, I went ahead and stamped that down in black and I used the Versa Fine Black Onyx ink, but I do want to make sure to heat set this. I'm just going to heat set it very, very lightly, but that ink is going to stay a little bit wet on that vellum and I want to make sure that dries before I stick my finger into it and mess it up. All right, that looks super, super cute. And now we can go ahead and start putting the rest of the card together. So I'm going to move all that stuff out of the way. And now I'm going to bring in my little cute and adorable stocking. And now I can see where my sentiment's going to go. I'm just going to grab my X-Acto knife, line that up, and then just trim down this piece. I don't need all of that vellum to wrap around because actually we go beyond the stocking itself. So I'm just going to use my little craft knife here, kind of trim that down. And that just gives me just enough to wrap around the stocking. I'll go ahead and grab my ATG gun one more time, and I can just put some of this down the side and then wrap that around. Now you can totally use this stocking stuffer stamp set many ways. There is a outline piece that you can just color in a full stocking that doesn't have the lines. You can make your own design. There's several things that you can put inside your stocking. So I've made sure to link all the products that I use for this below, and also over on my blog where you'll see additional photos of this. So make sure to check that out as well. I'll just hold that there and then fold over that piece. And then our little stocking now is ready for its debut on our gorgeous background. All right, so I'll bring back in that card panel and look how pretty this looks. This actually is one of my favorite cards that I've made using Concord 9th products. I don't know what it is. I'm a Christmas fanatic, and this stocking I just absolutely adore. I absolutely adore this stocking. All right, I'm using my trusty 3M foam tape because you guys know this is my favorite stuff. And I'll peel off that backing, and then I can go ahead and place that down on the front. And look how pretty that is. Now, I love seeing the snowflakes in the background, but they are not competing with my stocking. They're just an added little bonus in the background. All right, for my card base, I'm going to use Nina Solar White 110-pound card base here. And this is the card base I normally use for all of my cards. I will score that with my EK Success tools. I love this little scoreboard. And I'll make sure everything lines up, and then I'll grab my Teflon bone folder because that bone folder gives me the best creases for my cards. All that is left is to go ahead and layer this on top of that white card base, and we are going to be done with this card. I would love to see what you guys create with this stamp set because I absolutely love it. Make sure to tag me on Instagram, MZ Dana Joy on Instagram. I'm going to keep my card base right in that score board so I can get everything lined up perfectly. And there we have it, you guys. My first tutorial for the 2019 card series. And thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Don't forget to head on over to the blog for an additional card today. I'll see you guys in another video soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.